Well, let's talk now to Ed Miliband, Secretary of State for Energy Security and Net Zero, for their views on issues of the day. Ed Miliband, I know you have a big announcement about carbon capture that we will come to in a moment. But first, I wanted to get your views on what's happening in the Middle East, first of all. And all eyes, of course, on Israel to see how it chooses to respond to Iran's missile attack on Tuesday. What steps do you think that Israel should take next? And should Israel, for example, target Iran's nuclear facilities?
Well, look, I'm not going to second-guess those issues. It's obviously a deeply worrying situation. First of all, in relation to the situation between Israel and Lebanon, we've called for an immediate ceasefire, and we're working with our allies on that. The Prime Minister has spoken to the Prime Ministers of both Israel and Lebanon. And obviously the destabilization of the Middle East in this way is a deeply, deeply worrying situation. As far as Iran is concerned, we absolutely respect and support Israel's right to self-defense. It was an outrageous attack on Israel. We obviously want to see restraint. But Israel's right to defend itself is something where we stand absolutely foursquare with them.
President Biden told reporters yesterday that strikes against Iran's oil industry were under discussion. What did you make of that?
Look, you'll understand why, and I'm not going to speculate about these issues. What I will say is that at the highest levels, the Prime Minister, the US President, discussions are obviously going on between countries, between allies, on a whole range of issues. But I think what we need is restraint in a very, very volatile situation. A wider war in the Middle East is in no one's interests, and that is what we as the UK government are obviously working towards, a de-escalation of this current situation.
Let's turn to the announcements that you're making today regarding carbon capture. You're saying that you're supporting 2 carbon capture and storage projects. And to explain to people that might not be familiar with the terminology, that they essentially, as I understand it, capture greenhouse gases from polluting plants and then store them underground. This will come at a cost of £22 billion over 5 years. That's an awful lot of money to commit when you've got a £21 billion black hole. So how's it going to be paid for?
It's actually over 25 years, that money. Look, what's so exciting about this, Anna, is that on Monday, the last coal-fired power station in Britain closed, and that was the end of an era. And people asked, are any of those kind of jobs, those good jobs that there were, going to come back? And the answer is, under this government, absolutely yes. Because today, a new era begins. A new era of a new industry, carbon capture and storage. As you described, capturing the carbon and burying it underground rather than going up into the atmosphere. It's about good jobs across the country, and it's about a sign of where this government stands, which is we are going to invest in the future of this country. We were elected to change things in a positive way. We were elected to grow our economy, to create good jobs, to give us energy security in a new era, and that is what we're determined to do.
But where is the money coming from for it? Are you borrowing to pay for this?
But yes, public investment. We believe in borrowing to invest. It's absolutely the right thing to do for Britain. And I will be with the Chancellor and the Prime Minister talking about this today because, look, we are in a unique position as the United Kingdom. We have the North Sea, an absolutely huge asset when it comes to this new industry of carbon capture and storage. The problem in the past, including under the last government, has been that dither and delay, fits and starts, have meant that we have not taken advantage of these kind of industrial opportunities. People in my constituency in Doncaster have been asking for at least a decade, where are the good jobs of the future going to come from? This is the answer. And this government is willing to invest with the private sector to make this happen. What's so exciting about this is you've got 2 transport and storage networks in the northeast and the northwest, which are, if you like, the kind of the railways, the new railways of carbon capture and storage, taking the carbon, transporting it and storing it underground. It's absolutely the right thing to do for Britain.
OK, you say you're very excited about it. There has been concern that the message of doom and gloom for the government has actually been putting investors off. So is this about you trying to rectify that? Do you accept that there was too much doom and gloom and there was a risk that was talking down the economy?
I'm in politics for change and hope, not doom and gloom. And that's what this is all about. And that's what the Prime Minister is about. And that's what the Chancellor is about. And I think this is the first part of what you'll be seeing from the government in the coming months. Yes, the country that we came to govern on July the 5th is in a very difficult state. People are facing public services in decline, high taxes, squeezed living standards, low growth. But we're going to fix it. We're elected to fix it. It's not going to be overnight, but we are determined to fix it. We are determined to change things. So absolutely, this is about hope and change for Britain. It's about the good jobs of the future. 4,000 good jobs just from the announcement today, up to 50,000 good jobs from going for a carbon capture and storage. World-leading projects that we're announcing today, as well as the new network that I talked about. This is part of the answer for how does Britain grow its way out of the difficulties we face, and how does Britain compete in the world?
And what about the technology? You're obviously hoping that this technology will help the UK reach its net zero targets, but what evidence is there that this can be rolled out effectively at scale and without being incredibly energy intensive itself? And also, isn't there a risk that focusing on technologies like carbon capture, it actually takes the onus off industry and can be used by them to justify continuing using fossil fuels?
I don't agree with that at all. If you take the cement business or if you take the glass business, I'm at a glass factory today, they need carbon capture and storage as part of the answer. Look, my philosophy is this. I'm driving forward with renewable energy, solar projects, wind projects. The most successful renewable auction in history happened just in the few months this government has been in power. So, clean power where we can, but carbon capture where necessary. And for industry in particular, there is no industrial future in a decarbonised world without carbon capture. And so we've got a choice. Do we say we're going to let these industries go to the wall? Absolutely not. Do we say we're going to make them fit for the future? Absolutely yes. And that is what this government is doing. I just don't believe the naysayers on this. If you take the Climate Change Committee, our official watchdog, our official advisors, they say this is a very welcome announcement. This is absolutely necessary if Britain is going to decarbonise. We've got to face the future. We've got to drive into the future. And that's what this is all about.
I just want to ask you a question about another issue that we learnt about yesterday, that proposals to give terminally ill people in England and Wales the right to choose to end their life are being introduced in Parliament later this month. The MPs will be given a free vote on that as well. I just wonder what your view on that was.
Well, look, these are very difficult issues on which people, there's very respectable differences of view. My personal view, and this is how I voted in the past, is to be in favour of the bill on assisted dying. I think we have lots and lots of people with the most difficult terminal illnesses. I think they need dignity and they need to be able to have control over their own life and their own death, frankly. Of course, there have to be proper safeguards in place. I understand those who have concerns about this, but my personal view is I will be voting for this bill.
OK, well, Ed Miliband, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Thank you. Thank
you very much.
Well, listening into that, our political correspondent Rob Powell is here with me and our climate reporter Victoria Seabrook. Hello to both of you. Victoria, I'll come to you in a moment and ask what you made of his announcement about carbon capture. But Rob, what was your takeaway from that?
I thought the tone was very different from Ed Miliband than what we've got used to from government politicians in the last few months. It was a lot more sort of hopeful, optimistic, a lot more energetic. He said, we believe in borrowing to invest. I'm in politics for change and hope, and this is the first part of what you'll see in the coming months. It certainly feels like after that conference speech from Rachel Reeves, where she sort of had a kind of perma-smile on her face, combine that with the announcement of what we're seeing today, and you can feel a kind of inflection point within the government where they're have maybe realised that the doom and gloom went too far, that it was damaging some confidence from businesses and investors, and they're trying to turn the corner a little bit and saying, look, yes, we're going to try and plug some gaps in the fiscal situation, but we do believe in borrowing to invest. We do believe in plugging money in to try and get growth. And I think the politics of this announcement today is what that is all about. And I think the politics does hang heavy over this. I thought Ed Miliband made a bit of a meal about talking about this being a new era. I remember going to Aberdeenshire with Rishi Sunak, I think it might have been earlier this year, actually, to unveil government investment in a carbon capture and storage project up there. So the previous government, this is a point the Conservatives are making today, did actually prioritise this quite a lot as well, or put money towards it and talked about it a lot. So how new this new era is up for question.
Yeah, what do you make of that, Victoria? And what about those criticisms that some have of carbon capture? How do you think he responded to that?
Yeah, I mean, Rob makes a good point. This policy doesn't come out of nowhere. It's been developed for years and years with industry. But credit to the new government, they've given it kind of the final nudge and that signal about long-term investment that the private sector says that it needs. The technology, it's been around for decades. It works by basically capturing the carbon dioxide, so that's one of the key greenhouse gases, from the source. So from when it's first released, that might be, in this case, for example, a gas-fired power plant, but it might also be some kind of really heavy industry like making cement or bricks. It then captures that and then either uses it as a material in something else, or it stores it underground. So in these cases, they will be transported under pipelines that we already have, gas pipelines, and then locked away, as is hoped, under the sea in depleted gas fields. The fact that the UK has a lot of these fields and it has this infrastructure makes it quite well suited, the government says. It's also got a history of engineering and the fossil fuel sector, lots of transferable skills. And it is something that the Climate Change Committee says that we need to help reach our climate target. So this technology, it's been around for decades. It's failed really to scale so far. It's still very expensive, but it has gathered momentum in recent years. So there's only 45 commercial sites globally, but there's about 700 in some stage of development. So it's about climate change, but it's also about jobs, and it's about making sure, as we've heard in the last week, the closure of the steelworks in Port Talbot, the closure of the Ratcliffe coal plant. It's about setting up new green jobs of the future. And for that reason, it has been welcomed by the unions and industry. Having said that, it's not a silver bullet. It's very expensive. There are some questions about, yes, how expensive it is. Has the government chosen the right projects for this? They say we're going to start with the ones that are ready to go, and that will lay the foundations for more in future.